What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another episode of New Orleans Basketball, New Orleans Network podcast. As always, I am your host, Raphael Rattler, joined by my fellow little brother, Garrick Rattler. What's good, son?
Basketball is regular season. Basketball is back. And man, it feels good. I'm telling you, bro. Last night, I was in Philly and I watched Inside the NBA on TNT. And I heard the theme coming in, and I almost shed a tear. I mean, it's beautiful, baby. It's beautiful, and it's good to see. This is like the best time, right? Because all the stars are playing. Well, majority of the stars are playing. People are healthy. Everybody's hopes are up. It's a good vibe, man. It's a good vibe. So I'm enjoying the rollout, man. Pels played tonight. We're gonna get into the game, but I'm just happy basketball is back, man. That's all I'm grateful for, man. How's everything on your side?
Everything is blessed. I feel like football season is like over.
What is that?
Yeah, we won't even get into
what.
it.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
Everything is blessed. I'm looking forward to jumping right into basketball. Like you said, it was so good to watch good basketball yesterday, and Anthony Davis choking the second. I mean, the Nuggets ring ceremony and things like that. But before we get too far into the show, the Pelicans started their season off with a win. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter, on X, on IG, on TikTok. That's NO Basketball, no E. Like the episode below. Subscribe to New Orleans Basketball. We'll be coming at you a lot more this season. So, yes, the Pelicans, for 2 seasons in a row, start off with a winning record of 1-0. They defeat the Grizzlies in Memphis, 111-104. So our keys to the game is funny. Like, again, we talk about withstanding the run. The Pelicans have more firepower. John Morant's not playing. Steven Adams not playing. Like, they have more, but Memphis was the best team at home last year, and they were 9-1 without Ja last year. You knew they were going to fight. And so you saw a little bit earlier, like Zion get frustrated, Zion miss some shots, and you get ready to say, oh, it's Zion rusty, and then the fourth quarter happens. But, like, you knew Memphis was going to make their runs, and they never really let go of the string until, I guess, the very end and things like that. But, like, when we talk about value in the basketball, look, the Pels, again, they led the NBA in turnovers in the preseason, and then in this game they have 21. Now, it didn't really cost them. Obviously, they led the majority of the game comfortably. But, like, when you're playing some of these other really good teams in the West, you can't be having 21 turnovers. And a lot of them are, like, careless. It's like dribbling off your leg and, like, throwing the ball into the ninth row and stuff like that. And, like, I just feel like at some point that has to rectify itself. Now, it probably will take some losses. It'll probably take some locker room discussions. But, like, that stuff's got to clean itself up. What were your thoughts off just kind of, like, not the reckless play, but just, like, sloppy play? Is that, like, beginning of the season nerves, or what do you think it is?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. Listen, everybody on the starting lineup, the starting five, had 2+ turnovers, culminating with BI at 5. Not ideal, not great. But again, listen, it's not excusable, right? You want these things to be fixed. But you gotta to think about, you're installing a brand new offense. You're doing this new motion where everybody's trying to get the ball involved. Everybody's trying to move and share the ball. You got these guys who very rarely play on the court together, trying to figure each other out on the fly. And then also you got people who are now in a playmaking role, speaking about Brandon Ingram, that hasn't been asked to, like, be the point guard, be the playmaker for an extended period of time throughout any of their careers. Zion, BI, CJ, like all of these guys, their best attribute is putting the ball in the hoop. Like, BI can't play make, Zion can't play make, but CJ can do some playmaking. But at the same time, like, these guys like to score the ball. And so, listen, I expect, they have some opportunities to grow in that area, and I think they will as time goes on. You got lucky. You got really lucky that these 21 turnovers really didn't hurt you in a way that it could. Like you said, when you start to play some of these better teams with their full complement of players, you want to make sure that you're valuing the ball and you're getting as many squeezes out of the juice as you can, right? So you want to fix that, but it's a process. And if the Pelicans are going to go out and beat people up on the boards and do things, I think you could find ways to mitigate the turnovers, especially if you're getting turnovers yourself. But you do want to see that fixed.
Right. And so the last key to the game was who could dominate the paint. Now, Grizzlies ended up with 50 points in the paint, and the Pelicans were at 46. But I think the true telling story is, and again, like it's so refreshing to have Zion on the court, is that even though they were getting deterred at the rim, Jaren Jackson had 100 blocks in this game. Zion just kept going. He just kept going. And like I feel as if last year when Zion's down and players are down, if they weren't making them at the rim or get to the foul line, they just started settling. And it just started being like unnecessary jump shots and contested threes and stuff like that. But when you got that battering ram in Zion Williamson, like he's just gonna keep beating into the damn opens, right? And so like you saw Jaren Jackson Jr. struggle offensively. I think a lot of it's because he was so worried about defending Zion on the other end. And so that's just another element that he just brings to this team that just makes life a little bit easier. So I want to get to a couple things from your perspective that kind of stood out, that kind of made you think, okay, that's not something I was looking at, or oh, that's not something I expected. Is this going to be kind of more of the norm?
Yeah, so let's just get into it. Matt Ryan, Kyra off the bench. I mean, listen, the Pelicans went into the depths of the roster, for this one. And hey, look, it paid off. It paid off big time for him. And the Pelicans are very familiar about what Matt Ryan can do, right? You remember the shot that he made as a Laker to beat the Pelicans last season, and you saw him come in and instantly do what he does, right? Take 6 threes, make 3 of them in back-to-back fashion, where it kind of broke the game open, right? You don't expect, you plan. Listen, I was on the plane watching the game, and I had to listen to the Grizzlies broadcast, and you could hear the Grizzlies broadcast saying like, well, he wasn't on the scouting report, and he is on the scouting report, but he's only there as a specialist to shoot. And so I think that was a big breath of fresh air. And another person I want to give some big kudos to in this game. Obviously, the stars. We'll get into what they did. Herb Jones played a phenomenal floor game today. I think he was everywhere. He was playing great defensively. He only took 8 shots tonight. Went 2 for 3 from 3-pointer, but his defense, his IQ, and I think the theme of this entire, we used it for this preseason. I think the theme for this entire season and his new offense is decisiveness. Guys look like they are making a decision to do something with the ball, and they're going for it, right? They're no longer hesitant and looking for Zion and looking for Brandon Ingram, obviously, and CJ and JV. Obviously, those guys are your bell cows. Those guys are going to get you to the finish line and bring this team where you go. But you need guys like Herb and Dyson and Jordan Hawkins and apparently Matt Ryan, who can come on the floor and make plays and not be so concerned about trying to find those guys. And I think Herb was a great encapsulation of what you need the others to kind of do. Be decisive, contribute in all these different ways. He was there for blocks. He caught a couple of like bad fouls and bad calls that went his way, but he was right there with it. He stuck with it. And I think that is the Herb Jones that is going to contribute to a Pelicans team that has a really high ceiling. You want these guys to step in and feel empowered to do the things that they do well, and even some of the things that they don't do great, but they've worked on. Herb went 2 for 3 from the 3-point line, and like I'm happy with it. Like that, you give if Herb could go 2, I don't expect him to go 2 for 3. But if he can feel that confident, and we talked about it, those corner threes, if you can get it up close to 40% on those corner threes, this offense becomes very difficult to guard. So, big shout out to Herb. He had a fantastic floor game. Matt Ryan obviously coming in and breathing, giving this team a breath of life from the 3-point line. With Jordan Hawkins still being a rookie and Trey Murphy on the sideline, you needed somebody to come in and do what they did. And a big shout out to Willie Green, right? Like for playing these guys and getting. Last year, there were times where you were begging for like Dyson, who was a lottery pick to get on the floor, and now you're talking about a guy who just got on the team on a couple of days ago, getting big minutes and paying off. So it's good to see Willie Green. This seems like a different version of Willie Green, who will give these guys an opportunity to play, give these guys an opportunity to get out there and get on the floor. Now, obviously, Trey Murphy, Jose, guys are not playing, but you still gave some of the guys who were able to shoot and were able to contribute an opportunity to show themselves, and it paid off for them.
Yeah, I think, you mentioned a great point with Herb, like even JV, like 12 and 12. Like that's what you need. Yeah. That's what you need Herb and JV to do every game. Be a threat from the 3-point line, pick your spots, and then give you something on the defensive end from Herb perspective and from JP perspective. Just make people guard. Right, like there's so many times when the doubles coming from BI and Zion, just be available, right? And he did.
Man, that 3-pointer that JV had, where he just kind of like caught it, he like licked his finger, checked the win, check the taxes, see what the tweet's about, see if he subscribed to NO Basketball. It was like, and then I'm gonna shoot it. And it's like, if they're not gonna guard you, you have to shoot them. And 2 for 4 from JV from 3, you can't ask for much more.
Right. You talk about the 3-pointers. Like the Pelicans still only shot 32 threes, but they're high quality threes because they're catch and shoot threes. They're not the ones that are contested. It's because you're playing off somebody else's gravity. That's what this Pelicans team's going to be. That's what they were at the beginning of last season. They didn't shoot a whole lot of threes, but they were the number 1 team in 3-point percentage. They shot 44% from 3 with a guy who just got on the team last week. You talk about Willie Green being flexible. The other thing you got to think about is like Matt Ryan's kind of been around for a while, and so he's played on other teams, and so Willie Green also likes to play veterans. And so it kind of plays when you're like, okay, well, if Jose's going to be down, is Kaiser Gates going to fill that role? Like somebody had, and Najee's down, someone had to get the minutes. He went with someone who obviously showed that he could be competitive in NBA games last season. So the things that stood out to me kind of like from a curiosity standpoint was like there was a possession or a couple possessions in a row there where the Pelicans kind of went to zone and they kind of let JV sit in the middle and not necessarily get pick and roll to death. And it was pretty effective for them. And so maybe that's another wrinkle. Again, having different things that you could throw at different people to start that in game 1 and it be effective. That was pretty alarming, but also something that I'm like, okay, maybe that's something that you do to minimize JV's defensive weapons. The other thing is the defensive rotations look so much crisper. Like 2 or 3 seasons ago, you'd always get to the second pass and you'd be like, well, the third pass is going to be open because the Pelicans don't know how to rotate. And like this season and last season, like it feels as if every time somebody gambled, somebody had their back and then somebody rotated it. So they're playing really good team defense. And so you saw that on the defensive side. And from the offensive side of the ball, you saw the ball moving as well. You saw the movement off ball. That's what you need out of this team. Now, I was texting you, you were traveling, I'm texting you, and I got ready to say, like, is this a Zion off game? And then the fourth quarter happens, and then he ends up shooting 53% from the field. But our key matchup was Jaren Jackson Jr. versus Zion. And in the first quarter, Jaren Jackson Jr. was getting the best of that. Like, Zion was coming off his left shoulder over and over and over, and Jaren Jackson Jr. was coming from the help position and getting the blocks. And then you saw, again, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. just wore down eventually. Like, he was doing so much trying to protect the rim that, like, he had no energy to go anywhere else in game 1 of the season. So Zion ends the game with, like, 23 points and 7 rebounds and 3 assists. But, like, if you really watch Zion, I know we haven't been able to do that a lot, you can objectively say, like, this was one of his worst games. Like, this was one of, like, those games where, like, oh, that's not really Zion. That's maybe, like, a C Zion or, like, a C plus Zion. And so to kind of see that happen, to kind of see what Brandon Ingram was able to do in terms of his floor game, you talk about her floor game, Brandon Ingram impacted the game in multiple ways as well. You see the midi, the splash midi, like the clean midi, like Do you think it was more like, hey, Zion's getting it back into his rhythm, missed a whole lot of time last year? Or do you think it was part of the matchup, right? Because I think the Grizzlies, they were one of the top teams in the NBA last year at defending the rim. Zion struggles versus them, right, in the grand scheme of things. What are your thoughts on it?
I think, like my one of my favorite quotes from Star Wars, only a Sith deals in absolutes. And I think it was a little bit of both, man. Listen, Jaren Jackson Jr. is a ferocious defender. I mean,
Right.
he is tall, he is athletic, and he goes for blocks. He does not care about fouls, very obviously. And he goes for blocks. And the one that the coach Taylor Jenkins challenge, the block that he challenged, that ended up being a reverse call and a clean block. Like, that just shows you that he does not care about it. And Zion, throughout the years has had struggles against he and that front court of he and Steven Adams. But like you said, I think this is a guy who hasn't played real basketball, and I always say you can run, you can scrimmage against your teammates. You can shoot around with the coaches. You can cross over and dunk all over Corey Brewer. You cannot simulate real basketball until you get on the floor with people who don't care if you hit the ground really hard and aren't trying to run to you and pick you up. And so I think this is a guy who has seen it. But, I mean, Zion scored the last 12 points of the game for the Pelicans. And it was like disrespectful points. Like, he was dunking and flexing and Memphis juking all across the FedEx Forum. And it was definitely, it was an arrival. And I think there's a couple of things that Zion can clean up. There's a play, at Zion at the 5, which is something obviously we're going to see, moving forward. Even with Larry Nance available and EJ Liddell available, Zion was playing the 5 today. And so, if we're going to see that, Zion, one of the things, again, this is his first time getting heavy minutes at the 5. This is very simple as Brandon Ingram getting minutes as the playmaker. They're learning these things. So when Zion plays the 5 on offense, he's more of a wing, right? A stretch 5. I'm coming at you full speed ahead, down low. There was a play on the defensive side of the ball, though, where Herb boxed out Xavier Tillman, and he was boxing him out for somebody else to get the board. Well, Zion is the 5. So, like, you are the person who has to get the ball. And, Xavier Tillman ended up getting the ball, and Herb kind of turned around and was clapping like somebody has to get it. So that's one of the things that Zion is going to learn. He's going to learn that, like, even if you're playing a wing version of the 5 on offense, you have to bang and get those boards on the defensive end. And you saw him kind of do it a couple of plays after in the fourth quarter where he came down, got a defensive rebound, put back, seal the game. And those are the things that he's going to learn. Now, his finishing, the dunks, you see the athleticism there. You see the unstoppable force that he is there. That backspin alley-oop that BI threw, like, good luck guarding that, because you have to front Zion in case BI comes around there and you have to help. But if you fronting Zion and he hit you with that spin, you might as well just run back on defense because you're getting dunked on if you don't make a business decision. So, those things are going to come with time. Him playing downhill and we've talked about this. Zion is very akin to a workhorse running back, whereas the game goes on and he's those 2-yard runs in the first quarter, those 3-yard runs in the first quarter, they end up being 7 and 8 and 10 yards in the fourth quarter because you're just so tired of being punched in the face and dunked on. And in a normal setting, like, Jaren Jackson blocks a guy dunk like that, and you turn it, and it's a challenge, and they reverse it. That's a momentum builder. That's one of those things where people be like, well, I won't be going in there anymore. Oh, yeah, Zion went right back at him. And eventually you get tired, and that's how Zion ends up with 12 straight points in the fourth quarter to end the game, because you're just so tired of it. So it's gonna continue on. Listen, Jaren Jackson is a phenomenal defensive center. He won Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. And so you won't see a lot of Jaren Jackson's as you go on. But I think, Zion looked good for a C game. And I think that's the best way. They won the Pelicans. The score was a little closer than the game kind of indicated. Right. The Pelicans had a really good win, and Zion wasn't like the main character, like the only driving force of the game. And that shows you that depth of the team that we talked about.
Right. The only thing that I would call out is, like, We kind of talked about this in the preseason. Zion needs to stop complaining. Like when you don't get the call, there was too many times where like I'm looking at the possession. I'm like, why are there only 4 Pelicans on the court? Because Zion's like walking back, and like that's just bad body language. And again, some of that will come with like playing, and some of that will probably come with CJ and Larry Nance be like, yo, just get back in the play. You're putting us at a disadvantage. Probably him hanging out with Luka because that's what Luka loves to do. Like you got to get past that, right? Like that kind of stuff. You kind of got to move on from. But who we can't move on from is CJ McCollum. We talked about it. Like he looked like the most in shape guy all preseason. Everybody talked about, Griff talked about he'd been working all summer long because he missed the playoffs, never missed the playoffs before. Willie Green calling him up because he's getting older and needs to protect his body and make sure he's ready for a long home season. Well, you saw it in his game, but like it wasn't just, hey, I'm in better shape than everybody. Like he was giving effort defensively. He had 2 steals and a block, from CJ McCollum. And he had, at the beginning of last season, was also contributing on the defensive end. But someone who's being asked to probably do the most difficult thing in terms of BI and CJ and Zion, he fit well into the third option role. Like, again, there was no times in the game where I'm like, hold on, CJ. Like, he probably should pass it. Like, every shot he take, I'm like, that's a good shot. It was either a catch and shoot, an end of the shot clock, a go get your own, a pick and roll situation. It was less of the Rucker Park. And so, like, that's what you want from CJ. And like he was kind of the most consistent player for the Pelicans on the game. What did you see from this role from CJ? Do you think this is something he can blossom in? Because look, he led the team in points, and he wasn't the focal point at all.
Absolutely. My description of CJ tonight is don't introduce me to a vibe you can't maintain, brother. Don't do it to me, because this is the role. I tweeted about it earlier. This is the role for CJ. He looked so much more comfortable without the weight of the offense on those injured shoulders and that broken and that messed up wrist. Like, he looked phenomenal in his role. And I said it after the first pregame, like, it is visible how much more in shape CJ looks than like everybody else on the team. Like, it's visible. And you heard Jen talk about it on the broadcast about CJ saying he's in the best shape of his career. And like, this is a guy who's about 32 years old, right? Who has seen some games and played some NBA time. And to say that now he's in the best shape of his career is saying something. And the proof is in the pudding, right? We said it in the preseason, all the preseason games, like CJ looked really well. Like the turnovers, everybody had the turnover bug. But today, CJ had the fewest turnovers out of the starting 5. He had 2. So like that, CJ is a phenomenal third option. Like, there's not a lot of third options. Like, obviously Bill and Phoenix, and you have some guys, Drew and Boston now. But like, CJ is right up there with that second tier up there as when you talk about third options, a guy who can get a bucket whenever you need him to. And I think now that he's been more encouraged to do that catch and shoot things his season, right? He won't have to have so much wear and tear on him from having to do the left, right, up at the top of the key, ISO dribble, pull up, mid-range, contested. You get hit on the arm and hit on the play off of your stars, play off of the guys that's there. And Willie Green is allowing CJ to do some of the things that he still is comfortable doing, right? CJ is a bucket. He can get a bucket. And some of his ISO plays are good plays, right? Like, this guy can score ISO. It was just reining back the amount of ISO plays and isolation basketball that he was playing. And he's allowing him to do that by this staggering, right? This is so beautiful when the Pelicans have their full complement of stars, because like, you like, damn, BI still on the floor. All right, he saw BI. Oh, here comes CJ and JV. And like, when CJ has the ball, but like there's a lead and a flow to the game where BI has been cooking and Zion has been cooking, it's more easier for him to come in and say, okay, well, look, we're up 10 points already. I have they're subbing out their best. Desmond Bain is going to sit down. I can come in and kill Zion Williams, and then run pick and roll with JV and get Matt Ryan open for shots and get Trey when he gets back shots, and Jordan Hawk. Like, he just has a lot of compliment. And I mean, going 6 foot what was he, 6'11" from three? Like, shoot the three ball. 11 threes is good for CJ if you're going to be doing catch and shooting and doing some of those things that you have to incorporate yourself, especially while some of the 3-point shooters are missing. So, I mean, this is the role for CJ. This is the ideal role for CJ, and this is a very good start. He talked about fitting into the offense, and even post game talked about some of the things that he needs to clean up. But I think that this is a very good sign for CJ because he got his points, but he never forced it. And I think that that's a good balance for CJ because he wants to be valued. He wants to be, he talks about, I get paid like an all-star. He wants to be valued and seen that way. But if you can be seen that way while also still playing in the floor of the offense, that's that sweet spot for CJ.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. There was a lineup that they went to twice with CJ, JV, Jordan Hawkins, Matt Ryan, and I think it was Dyson or Herb, one of the two. And like it just makes me think like when Trey's back, who's gonna like be the guy during that line? Like, is that the kind of the window for Trey to experiment a little bit with CJ and with JV? I just find that interesting because most likely Matt Ryan will not be in, and it will be Trey Murphy. So
yes,
let's get to the bench. Let's get to the second line. So obviously, I never thought I would hear New Orleans cheering for Matt Ryan, but here we are. Picked up last week, three from 6 from 3. Everybody knows him last year for beating the Pels in that disastrous loss to the Lakers in a row. But again, this is a guy who's been around, a guy who's mature, knows his role, knows what he brings. Like, again, you can't hide as an organization from your roster moves. Last year and the year before, like, the Pelicans are telling you, they don't value, like, shooters like that. So what did they do? They went and got two-way players. Kaiser Gates, who shot 55% from player. You get Matt Ryan, who's a sniper 3. You draft the Jordan Hawkins. So you're not investing a whole lot of money into guys who predominantly just shoot. But you have those guys available. And again, to your point, Willie Green thrust them in there. Now, if Najee was available tonight, do you see Matt Ryan? I don't know. But you saw what having that spacing on the floor can do. Guys who are just catch the ball and shoot the ball with confidence every time. Like, that's what this offense is going to thrive with. B.I. handling the ball, Zion handling the ball, CJ handling the ball as well. But outside of Matt Ryan, we got to talk about instant impact Dyson Daniels. So the first play of the game, his first touch, Dyson gets the ball, does his Aussie spin move, and gets to the basket, and he's aggressive. And it kind of set the tone for him the rest of the night. Every time he got the ball, he just looked more decisive. He looked like, hey, I belong, right? And when I get the ball on offense, I'm not a deer in the headlights. Now, the 3 he took was pretty bad. That was a very late 3. But again, it's more about the aggressiveness. It's more about the mindset, and that's what you want to see from a second-year player. What did you like from Dyson in terms of things that he can pick up with him going into the next game?
So I'm going to talk about one play where he ended up with 5 rebounds, but one play he got 3 rebounds, and it should have been no rebounds because just dunk the ball, Dyson. Please just dunk the ball. He like got to the rim and he like tried to like put it in and it rimmed out and he got the ball and he tried to put it in again and it rimmed out and then he finally got the ball and laid it in. And I'm like, Dyson, all of this could be mitigated if you just dunk the ball the first time. But listen, Dyson has a skill set that works in the NBA. He is a tall point guard. He sees himself as a point guard. He sees the floor like a point guard. He moves on the floor like a point guard. And I think, as he grows in his maturity and basketball, because you got to remember, this is still a super young kid who is learning on the fly. Didn't get a lot of minutes last season. Didn't get a lot of minutes on his FIBA team. So like he's still like hasn't played a ton of basketball. As far as like the NBA is concerned. And so he's learning. I think as time goes on and his confidence grows, you're going to see a lot of good plays from Dyson. Now, again, the 3-point shot, he had that 4 for 5 game in the season, in the preseason, and got everybody all excited, including myself. But the NBA gives and the NBA takes, and you have games where you're 4 for 5, and you have games where you shoot the ball, and it looks like, what the hell was that? but it's about coming back and shaking back and coming and being that confident guy. And he talked about it in the offseason about when things went wrong for him last season, he would like retreat into himself and kind of shy away from doing anything else. And you saw him getting in the mix with rebounds, playing defense, and doing things and contributing to the ways. Now, I think he had 4 fouls, which, I think that's just him trying to do a lot on the defensive side of the ball. And listen, I'd much rather listen, Dyson is going to play a good role on this team, but it's not so much where, like, if he has 5 fouls, it's like, oh man, we gotta like be aggressive. Like, be aggressive. You got 6 fouls. You have an ability to be a disruptor. Like, do it. Go for it. And I'm okay with that while he's learning, what he can get away with. We saw a lot of that with Herb his rookie year, right, where he kept getting fouls and picking up fouls, and then he slowly started to say, okay, well, I can't do that, but I can do this, and I can get away with that. And you see Dyson kind of going through that same thing right now. And I think that Dyson has an opportunity to do some things this season. And, obviously this is a launching pad for him. And I think his confidence looks well. And again, that theme that we talk about throughout the season, that looks like it's going to be the theme this season, decisiveness. Like, that's all you want from a guy who is just getting his feet wet. And the beautiful thing about Dyson's game and his maturity and learning is that he's not asked to be way too much right now. Like, you have a ton of talent ahead of you. Find your role, find your niche, find the things that you're good at, could continue to do that, and continue giving him the spin move, because the spin move is unstoppable apparently. So I'm all with it.
I hear you. So from one young player to another, Jordan Hawkins gets in, first game of the season, catches the ball late in the shot clock, splash. First shot as a Pelican is a contested 3-point shot at the end of the shot clock. There were times throughout the game, he didn't play a whole lot of minutes, but there were times throughout the game when I saw this man in his rookie opening game calling for the ball. I'm like, man, that is a guy with a lot of confidence, and that's exactly what you want from your shooter. I also feel like there were times throughout the game where Matt Ryan was getting the shots off that Jordan Hawkins was like, give me the ball so I can get my own shots off. But that's what you want. You want somebody who got a real back when it comes to shooting. So when you got him and you got Trey on the court, man, it's gonna be a lot of fun for this roster. But what did you like from Hawkins in the limited action that he saw tonight?
Yeah, man, just let it fly. Let it fly. Like, continue to let it fly. Continue to find ways to get open. I think a lot of Jordan Hawkins' value when he's not making shots or like taking shots will be his movement and just constant movement. And people like, why won't he stop moving? And I think like that's going to allow other people to shake loose and other people to get free. He had 2 assists this game. Like, listen, that might not be a lot before a shot happy, shot hungry, shot hunting rookie guard. Like, 2 assists is really good for him in his first ever game. That means he's not only locked on, just getting any shot he could get up, but he's also thinking the game and making plays and making passes and things like that. And so, this was a good showing for Hawk. And, obviously he's going to get more opportunities to shoot the ball. It's the first game of the season. He's going to get that opportunity to shoot the ball. But I think this was a good showing for him. He held up defensively. He had 2 fouls. Couple times he got beat off the dribble. Couple times, again, him just being slight of frame. But this is a guy with max confidence in himself, and I'm looking forward to see that confidence kind of grow as the season goes on, because the Pelicans are going to need him sooner or later.
Right. And you talk about that. Now, there's one player who didn't really shine today, Kira Lewis. He almost had the Tony Snell stat line with his 0, 0, 0, 0. But in the last part of the game, he got a block. Now, again, these opportunities are crucial for Kira. Like CJ said, Kyra's had the best offseason of anybody in terms probably of the second line players. But, like, he's got to show it. Like, while Jose's not available, and apparently Jose had a setback and reevaluate in 2 weeks, that phrase that no Pelicans fan wants to hear.
Oh, my goodness.
But he's going to get a couple more opportunities, and he's got to maximize it. You talk about the confidence in the Jordan Hawkins and the confidence that's building in Dyson Daniels. I think Kira needs a little bit more. There were too many times where he's got Luke Kennard on him in transition. Kira, you have an elite skill set. You should be forcing the action. When you come off the pick, you should be going downhill and turning the corner. And I feel like he's a little hesitant there. And so you look for him again. He's also another player who hasn't played a whole lot of NBA basketball. So you look for that to drive because again, that's something that nobody on the roster has, right? Like Darion Seabron's on this two-way, but if Kyra's going to prove his value and why he should stick around or potentially why he could get a bigger role somewhere else, he's got to be more aggressive on the offensive end. But again, all in all, a good showing by the Pelicans. First game of the season. They open at home on Saturday versus the New York Knicks. Well, we'll be coming to you guys from Knicks studio before that. But what you got left for the people as the Pelicans look to try to make it 2-0?
Yeah, just to kind of put a bow on things, BI and his floor game today. Obviously the shot is not falling as you would want to see it. He did knock out some really good shots, getting to his spot, getting to that sweet spot. He had a span and I think in the beginning of like the second quarter where he just was like on fire. He kept getting to his spot and things, and he started calling for the ball and things. And again, brand new offense, brand new position, a lot of things on his plate. It's a contract year for him, I'm sure. Well, contract extension year for him that I'm sure is in the back of his head. He talked about wanting to get more money. But I just think that, he's a guy that what he's going to give you every single night. He's going to get buckets for you. And I think it's about being efficient and cutting down those turnovers. And I think BI will be fine. Like, nobody ever questioned can BI score other than the people who apparently started watching BI for the first time during FIBA. But nobody questions can he score. And so you see the buckets coming. So as always, you never know what people are going through. So give someone a smile a day. Pelican season is up and running. So, we'll be coming to you as much as possible about these games. We'll be in, like I said, like Raph said, in Nick's studio come this weekend. So looking forward to seeing some of you guys in the Smoothie King Center. We'll be there for the home opener. And hopefully the Pelicans can continue this momentum. So as always, follow me on Twitter or X at Garrick_Rattler. Follow my brother at Raphael_Rattler. Follow the page on Twitter, on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, NO Basketball, no E. Most importantly, subscribe to NewOrleans.basketball, and we'll see you guys next time.